So, digital news update. For those of you that have been to thinkBIMs before, you'll know that this is kind of my take on what's been going on in the press in the last quarter. Various bits of either reports, articles, newsworthy stuff that we share in thinkBIM. So first up, there is a new code for smart plant being produced by National Highways. So this is an industry-wide scoring scheme for what they call Connected and Autonomous Plant, CAP. This CAP scheme will score machinery according to its level of connectedness. Lovely word there for us. But in terms of what they've got in terms of sensors or the ability to transfer data and various other levels of automation for that machinery. So this is a plan that they are rolling out, again, not just in terms of the automation of machinery, but principally, again, the fact that by automating machinery, you don't need people near machines or even necessarily on the job site. Secondly, CITB is launching a free skills mentoring scheme, digital skills mentoring scheme, primarily aimed for SMEs. It's being driven by a lady we know up in Scotland called Saffron Grant, who works at the Digital Construction Skills College up in Scotland. And this is talking about helping not necessarily operatives, but actually the business owners, directors and managers. So sometimes those people that don't necessarily see why their business needs to invest in BIM, they might see it as it's a cost rather than a benefit, to help them, as it says, to demystify digital tools and help them choose the best options. So although Saffron's based in Scotland, it's a UK-wide scheme. Again, it may be something that you want to signpost to your colleagues or supply chain. A slightly lighter note now, back in Easter, as I say, this is covering the last quarter. At the University of Warwick, they publicly shared a set of models that they had from recent projects with the idea that people could navigate them to find virtual Easter eggs. So they had virtual Easter eggs in the models. Everybody went for a virtual Easter egg hunt using a free model viewing software tool from Autodesk, with the opportunity, therefore, that people could actually comment on it. So they might pick up problems where they could see that actually things weren't going to work correctly in the scheme as building users. But ultimately, if they found them all, they got entered into a competition to win a real Easter egg. So again, a bit of a prize at the end of it all. But again, just getting people used to actually navigating through model space that perhaps wouldn't normally be involved or engaged in that process. Next up, we have it's not a silly question. What exactly is BIM? This is the UK BIM Alliance programme that's been recently published called Back to BIM Basics. You can see the link on the slide. As I say there, UK BIM Alliance org resources. There are 5 videos that have been produced. If you look very closely, unfortunately, you'll see me in there somewhere. I did make the cut for once or whatever. But it is 5 videos around what is BIM, why adopt BIM, how to implement it, what is the right software to use, and how to effectively manage your data. Now, the idea behind these videos is to make them very, very basic, as we said. There is pretty much no terminology, no jargon or anything like that. It's absolutely 5-6 minute videos you can share with people to just give them that first understanding. The overall plan is that by producing these and then subsequent editions of further videos and resources, we can train people up to understand about BIM in the wider sense, that when they finally get to the UK BIM framework, the UK implementation and kind of guidance around the ISO standards, that actually the terminology and the processes will be familiar to them, that the ISO becomes less scary, or they realise actually that they have been doing what they need to do against the ISO standards. So as I say, you can see those on the UK BIM Alliance website. And yes, there's the prompt for me. And we are going to be hosting one of the UK BIM Alliance roadshows in September around Back to BIM Basics. So our next thinkBIM event is going to be focused on that, with people speaking or panel sessions. We need to work out the details around those 5 key questions. Up to farthest north of Scotland now, to the Shetland Islands, where BAM Nuttall have been testing the Boston Dynamics robotic dog Spot. But this time the clever thing was they've been using it with 5G capabilities. So this is a project funded by the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. And by setting up a private 5G network, they have been able to remotely operate Spot from not even just in the Shetlands, but not even just in Scotland. Potentially, you can connect in anywhere in the UK with the way the scheme has been developed to operate the dog to do the scanning. Obviously, with a certain amount of disclosure that Boston Dynamics, that scanner on the top is Trimble, who obviously I work for, so it's brilliant. Okay, we have a different robot this time, nothing to do with us. So, Ratty the Robot, very good from the MTC, the Manufacturing Technology Centre, but again, a semi-autonomous wheeled inspection robot for going through pipelines, obviously when they are empty. But this machine itself can self-drive, so the operator can focus on the inspection works. So again, a very specific robot for a very specific use, but a bit like Spot in the previous case, both of these are taking people out of the situation, so eliminating the person risk rather than trying to reduce it. So again, there's a common theme in a lot of these items in the digital update of where we're looking at actually improving health and safety. And certainly with robotics, by fundamentally taking people out of the situation, which is that first point we all should be looking for to eliminate the risk in the first instance. So they've developed this robot and they're now looking at actually how they can develop and implement it with various utility providers to become more of a commercial opportunity. Still talking robots, this time underwater. So EDF, big energy provider globally, are doing testing again with research companies to develop a remote operated vehicle, an ROV, that operates underwater for them to be able to inspect the foundations of wind turbines. So again, why would you want to put a diver down there in all weathers, whatever? Robot doesn't really care. It will go there night or day, doesn't matter, do the inspection, feed back the data. So again, another one where it says here in the notes, it says here that they inspected 3 offshore turbines over the course of 4 days. Now, I don't know if that's an improvement in output, but just again, the mere fact of not sending people down there must be an improvement for these things. Again, this is more funding that's been done with something called the National Robotarium. That sounds a fantastic place to go to. Okay. Oh, that's got the wrong title on it still. That should say Amy Consulting, say Network Rail need to do more digitally. Right, so we'll ignore the title, which I haven't copied and pasted correctly. Newbie error. So anyway, Amy Consulting have published a white paper around technology, specifically the use of digital twins in the rail industry. They've said that the government obviously has a very clear position on this, and that the government has fortunately supported the industry in driving the use of digital twins. But what they have said as well is that we need to be doing more. Particularly, they're looking around digital signalling systems in terms of actually getting Network Rail to understand what those benefits are as a client, to adopt the digital technology so that the industry and a wide pieces can benefit. Next up, we have MPs calling for mandatory whole life carbon assessment. So this was in a recent parliamentary committee report from the Environmental Audit Committee, telling the industry that we need to cut carbon emissions urgently. We probably all knew that, but it's actually how we do it is probably the bigger piece. So the report has been published. It talks about whole carbon life assessments, and it talks about ways that we might go about reducing it. But it's suggesting that the government introduces these assessments no later than December 2023. So where does that fit in this BIM and digital piece? Well, if you haven't got the data, you can't measure it. There's plenty enough tools out there which will allow you at design stage to either tell you fundamentally how much carbon is in your asset or give you options for how you can reduce that. And we need to be looking at that again with the understanding very much the same, whether it was with BREEAM or BIM or health and safety or whatever, that the earlier you can start doing this, the better chance you have for influencing the outcomes. So again, the ability at early stages to understand what carbon is potentially involved in your scheme and how you can reduce that going forward. Okay, that's me done for the digital update.